Hello everyone, this is Gwydion. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 2D6 Dungeon, which is a solo roll and write game by Toby Lancaster of DR Games. So first and foremost, I would encourage you, if you're into solo play, I would encourage you to go to the DR Games website. I'll make sure I have links in the video here, and I'll remember to update the Forge page, which I'm showing right now, with a link to Toby's website. He has a number of different games. He sells maps, great guy. And I've been working with him for the last several weeks on getting his permission to allow me to release the first level of 2D6 Dungeon for free on the Forge. I'm not sure if this will ever turn into a paid version of the game on Fantasy Grounds. It's been a lot of work to really get the first level in. But for now, I'm just glad that I can at least give an experience of the first level on Fantasy Grounds. So I'm actually releasing this today. And this video, I'm going to try to keep it under an hour. But what I'm going to try to do, my intention of the video is to walk through what this looks like, how to open it, how to navigate a bit, and what you'll need to do to play the game. So when you look at the Forge page, when you download this, a couple of things that you will need to also get, and everything's for free. There's nothing that has to be paid for in what I'm going to show you. But the X-Core rule set, shout out to Damned. For those of you that don't know, the X-Core rule set is something that he created, I want to say about a year ago, but it's a really cool and easy way for you to either create your own games and actually play them and load them into Fantasy Grounds, or if you have something like the rules for 2D6 Dungeon, it's a way for you to go ahead and load it yourself and create a character sheet and have some automation. It's super cool. So I would encourage you to check that out, but you're going to have to download that in addition to subscribing to 2D6 Dungeon, of course, on the Forge. I have two links to the free rulebook on 2D6 Dungeon. On Board Game Geek. So you can follow these links, and also the Tables Codex, which is a free version. And again, I encourage you, I've bought all the books, the hardback books for the core rules, the Tables Codex, creature cards that come with that are available on Toby's website. So I would really encourage you to go there and support him and download and purchase the books there. All right, I'm going to move this over to another screen and jump into the Fantasy Grounds module. So the first thing you'll see when you load up and launch a campaign, and make sure, again, you do it under X-Core, you'll see in this case, I do have a couple of extensions loaded. It might be hard to read. One of them that I would encourage you to download and include is the basic card table by Trenlo. What that does basically is allow you to treat your tables as if it's a deck of cards, so that if you select one and for some reason, if that selection is supposed to be unique and you're supposed to take it out of the table so the next time you roll, you won't be able to select that. That's what this allows you to do. And time permitting, I will show an example of that during this walkthrough. I also have my one of my font extensions that I use built off of what Trenlo has done, just to make the font a little bit bigger and easier to read as we walk through this. One other thing that I'll mention again later is I did create a Form-Fillable PDF that might help you in addition to the character sheet in Fantasy Grounds. If you want to keep a little bit more automated track and in a clean format, PDF might be helpful. So I'll share that with you as we go through this as well. So let's start with opening our module library, and I will put chapters in this video. It might take me a bit, but hopefully later today, and might be another day or two, but I will include chapters and note when I speak about certain things that you don't have to watch the whole video if you don't want to. All right, so we'll go into the 2D6 Dungeon here, and I'm just going to go down into every aspect that I've created. And I apologize, since I'm doing this kind of real time, none of this is formatted to the screen, so I'll be doing a little bit of that to make it easier to read. So when you open this up, there is no reference manual. And that was intentional because I want folks to, I don't want to include any of the copyright information that I didn't have to. Toby, excuse me. Toby was very kind and allowed me to include the art for tokens, all the images. So everything is in here, but I just didn't want to recreate all of the rules. So it's going to be pretty easy. I'll show you the core rule book as we go through this too. So you click on arrays. We'll start there. All this is this helped me automate certain aspects of the character leveling up. So as you level up these arrays, so let's just click on, say, discipline. These arrays correspond to levels. So as you level up, you might get an additional attribute point for discipline. So I'll go encounters. So this is going to be a crazy looking up, but this is all of the encounters that can be rolled on the tables. I first had them as NPCs, and I just wanted to do as much as I could to make it easy for you. So I just created all the encounters. Regenerated characters. So you will have the character template, and I would encourage you to copy that so that you can continue to use it. But you'll have this. I'm going to go ahead and click on that to load it so that we'll get to it in a bit. All right. And actually, I'm going to do one thing to make it easier for me for later. Drag this clear to the hotkey bar and then just, clear that out. All right. So images. So you know what's going to be easier? You can click on images here, but I'm going to go over to the right-hand rail and click on that. And the only point I want to make to you here is you can see that I've got different categories. I've got a general category. So there are some things that are important, such as the turn flow chart. And that, again, I'm not going to get into, I probably won't get into this on this video, but what this does is allow you to read this. And there's even some links to some rollable tables and such, but this tells you exactly how to go through and run a turn and what are your checks. It's a great flow chart. So you have that, you have the combat, fatigue, and shift adjustment platform. Now what that is, move this over here. You know what, I'm going to close this just for a second. So what this shows you, and hopefully you can see that, is this is the mechanic of combat. And the more rounds, the farther you get into combat, into turns, into your rounds, you get an additional shift point. And what shift points do is they allow you to, as you roll dice, and the combat mechanic is you roll 2d6 and you're trying to match specific numbers on the dice. So what the shift mechanic does, which is pretty cool, is allow you to say you need to get to a 4-3. And the first die is always the primary die. Second die is the secondary die. So if you're trying to get to a 4-3, and let's just say you rolled a 5-2, you can use your shift points to move the 5 down 1 to a 4, and then your 3 down to a 2, if I said that right. But the point is you can use it to move your dice up or down. And the further you go into combat, once you reach round 4, you get an additional shift point, up to 3 additional shift points. And that's a way to symbolize and signify people are getting tired, you leave more openings, and it's also a way to speed up combat so that you don't just get stuck. I think it's pretty ingenious and it works really well. The game playthroughs that you'll see online will show you how you can put a die onto these combat cards if you're playing in live, like at a table. But if you're doing this on Fantasy Grounds, I semi-automated this function in the character sheet. So I will show you that. All right, doorway symbols. This is just as you play the game and you draw the map in Fantasy Grounds, this shows you how to draw each of the various types of doors you'll encounter. Starting map, I'll go through this a bit, and I created this. You can create your own, obviously super simple, but this is the shell of the map we'll use. I have already the starting corridor in here, but you can basically put that anywhere on the bottom horizontal line as your starting point for the dungeon. Some combat quick reference cards. So this talks about how to roll to hit and the shifting mechanic that we just walked through. There is a possibility to deflect with armor. So if somebody hits you and you'll see that when we create a character. But basically, your armor will have a number or a value, which I'll show. So let's just say you have a jerkin, which has a value of 4. That means that you will be able to reduce the damage if you are hit with an attack that has a primary 4. So it's kind of it's another cool way to bring in like armor to a solo game. And the piece of armor will tell you, do you get a -1, -2? What does that look like? Interrupt stat. So this is another way to it's a bit of an automation on the monster that you're attacking. So if you attack a monster, they will have an interrupt stat that will say, hey, if you hit them with a primary 4 or a secondary 2, it'll tell you a little bit about the description of what happens. And then they usually will get a reduction in that damage. So again, pretty cool, simple mechanics, but I think really cool. And then there's some things around multiple creatures. And this is one that when if there's more than one opponent and you attack them, and you kill one of them first. Actually, does it say here? Yeah, I guess this just talks about I'm thinking about something called, I think, momentum or something, but yeah, this is just a little bit more about fighting multiple creatures and winning the combat. And you typically always go first in combat. All right, I think I went through everything there, so let's go back. Let's go to items. So again, I'm going to go on the right-hand rail. So let's close that. So on items, again, I tried to categorize everything. 2d6 dungeon, I realized after I made this that I didn't create many of the little items. I created rations because you start with rations. I might do these later. These are herbs. So I might create more items. There's like 6 herbs, I think, types. So I didn't do much in the form of items because it's easy enough for you to add to your character sheet. And I was trying to, again, stay away from copyright. Armor. So this is all of the armor pieces, and it should be only the armor, at least I think, that are available in the free codex table. So what this does basically is if you click on this link, it shows banded shield, a 6 and a 5. So that means on a primary 6 or a secondary 5, you will get a modification of -2. So that part isn't automated. You'll have to look at it and adjudicate that yourself. But at least when you drag this onto your character sheet, you're going to see if it's a primary 5 or secondary 2, whatever it is. So I have all of those loaded in here. Got magic items. So I've got all of the various magic items. And in this case, some of these, I believe, like, let's look at, this might not be a good example, wand of paralysis. Let's see. Well, this is probably not a bad one. So in some of these cases, they have a number of charges. So you'll have to do the roll yourself, but then you can increase this value. And maybe I'll, again, when we create a character, show you that. But you can increase this and then track your charges directly from here. If there was anything else I wanted to show. Charges, yeah, I think I just wanted to show the charges there. Magic items, magic potions. So all of your potions are here. I also left in templates just to make it easier if you want to create your own things, or if you extend this to other levels on your own, you could use the templates to create your own items or from the game. For healing, some of these I did try to automate. So you can see that potion of extra healing, it heals up to 30 points. It's instant. And I do have damage -30, which would, if you target yourself, you double click on it, it will heal you 30. So I tried to automate what I could. Magic scroll. So here are all the different scrolls. And let's see if I have any notes on scrolls. Mental whip. Yeah, the same kind of thing. I do have a cast. So whenever you roll to cast a scroll, you are rolling a 2d6 and you're trying to get doubles. And you do get to use certain points. I think it's your discipline you can use for your shift value, meaning whatever your discipline is, you can shift the dice up or down to try to get to doubles. If you fail, there's a mechanic in the game that you would roll on a fail to cast. So there could be some ramifications if you fail. So in this case, you have sometimes a modifier on that roll. So you would roll on the table and then subtract 1 if you fail. And then I also, again, where I could, I coded damage 10. So if you target your monster slash NPC, you just target, you roll on that, and it'll just immediately record 10 damage. You can see down here. Now, the other thing I would say here is in some cases, let's see what a good one is. Distract, maybe? No. Okay. So on the scroll of balance, so if you read down here, you get a modifier of +1 to your discipline for 1 dungeon level. So what I did in effects, if you go up to the top right and you click on effects, I tried to build out all of the effects. These are just notes, right? So if you look for balance, I didn't say scroll, I just said balance. So it says +1 discipline for 1 dungeon level. So, and there's also just 2 conditions that you would have to track during the game: bloodied and soaked. And those come up if either you're butchering an animal, which you might to get the meat, or if you jump in a pool of water to find treasure or something, you can get soaked, you can get pneumonia, and that has a game impact until you dry yourself off. So all of these, wherever I could, I created effects that you can drag onto your character and note what happened. And again, template, you can have your own template. So if you want to build this out further, you can. Weapons are really simple. You have a choice of 3 weapons we'll go through. There's not much in these other than your roll. So this kind of signifies your attack roll. And I think that is it for items. See if I'm missing anything. Let's see. Oh, we will go to, yes, NPCs. Great. So let me click over here on NPCs. So in this case, again, only level 1 monsters. And I have a template in here again. But if you want to look at, let's say, what's a fun one to look at? I want to go to the huge infected rat. If you click on these, on the NPC, you'll see you have your health points. And some of these things, size, reach, you don't really need. I created initiative roll, and I'll probably talk about this again when I talk about my conversion notes. So I'll try not to duplicate my discussion. But I created an initiative roll on your character. You're set to 10, which will put you at the top. And I set initiative rolls for the NPCs at 1d6. To be clear, there is no initiative roll in 2d6 Dungeon. I did that to just make it easier for you to kind of double click and set people in combat, and it'll always set you first. There are instances where you would go second if you're surprised, so you would just manually drag yourself down. But in this way, if you run up against, say, 2 monsters, you can at least kind of double click, roll their initiative, and it'll just put them, in the combat tracker. Now you can always change that too if you want to reorder them, of course. All right, let's see. You see their shift points, their XP, attack. So all these are rollable down here. And their maneuvers, which is what they will use to, when they attack you, this is what they're trying to get to ultimately. They want to get the dice to a 4-3 or a 2-3. And then you roll on the damage, and I've already got that. If you click on these, it already gives you the damage. Now, whenever you see this S, as in Sam, that means there's something special. So in case of the infected bite, I didn't code it, sorry. I typed this special down here. So you'll have to open it, take a look at it, and say, oh, next turn loses 1 HP. So that might be something, next 2 turns, sorry, that I probably have not coded those effects. If I think about it later, I'll add those effects as well so that you could just drag that on as a reminder. And here's this interrupt. So the way this works is if you hover over it, it'll either say P or S. So a pounce, it appears, let's see if I type, is a secondary 1 and a 6. So if you, on your attack, you hit the rat, if your second die is a 1 or a 6, then his pounce will come into play, and you would subtract -1. So that part isn't automated. And again, I'll show you combat, but that's their character sheet. All of them look the same. I was able to do all of the tokens and took them right out of the core art. Notes, I'll put in here sometimes, like a rat does not have treasure, but if you did, you would have a link to your rollable table here and be able to roll on it. And then you have the image, so right out of the game. So the one place you'll want to look at this here, and you can obviously check and make sure I didn't screw up any of the information, but all of the maneuvers in there, I didn't put in the descriptive text because it's here. But if you want to look and kind of talk that through, if, what you're running into, you can kind of read that out loud. And then there's also basically a mechanic for critical hit, critical fail. So if the rat rolls a double 1, it's an automatic fail, and this tells you what happens. If they roll a double 6, it's called a prime attack, not a critical, but it functions as a critical. And this tells you what happens if he rolls double 6s. All right, so all of those are in there. See, I also have, on occasion, you'll run into a quest. So I think I caught them all, but these just will allow you to track them, and there's a little description in here. And you would just drag that onto the notes section of your character sheet. Rolls. All right, so most of the rolls here that I have in are just for the maneuvers, so all level 1. And again, what it's going to automate is shoot, I hope might have to adjust. It looks like that's not. Oh, you know what? I think I have a separate attack. I did that on purpose. You can always include the attack roll, but I do have the attack tied to the weapon. So the only thing you'll roll for the maneuver will be the damage. So in this case, damage 1d6 minus 1. So all of those are coded. So is that? And the final piece is, well, we'll go into tables and then I'll show you the story. So let's go into the, actually, you know what? I want to go to the story first. I apologize. We'll go in order. So it'll be hard to read, but just so you look at these intro and game links, this tells a little bit about, what I did, how I converted, just at a very high level. Tells you that there are links here to the rules and the codex. So if you click on this link here, it's going to open the Board Game Geek website. And so it opens it right to the files section. So my form-fillable character sheet is right here that you could open. You can see Gwydion, although it's with an E because I didn't have Gwydion without an E available. And then down at the bottom, the free tables codex and the free rules. So you'll be able to grab that. So that's that. And then the DR Games website. Please, 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 if you click on that, I guess you don't need to see it, but that is linked directly to Toby's website where you can buy all of the things I'm showing as far as the codex and the books and what have you. Conversion notes. And then we'll get into, I'll show you the tables, and then we'll get into character creation. So conversion notes, tables. So the point here is I try to include all rollable tables that were in the codex. So I did not recreate the tables with separate like story entries. It's just rollable tables, but I tried to automate as much as I could, automate the combat, and I'll show you that when we get into just a quick round of combat. NPCs, all NPCs are in there, and I've talked about that. Initiative, again, there really isn't a concept of initiative, but I set it to 10 for the player and a D6 for the NPCs. Level 1 only, that's all you're going to see in here, because that's what Toby and I agreed would be a good free intro. Modified tables, there'll be situations where you're directed to roll something like L1M, which stands for level 1 martial, -1. So instead of making you do that yourself, I created, and I'll show you quickly, when we look at these tables, I have several groupings. Core rulebooks tables, generic tables, level 1 tables, all these different tables. But if you look at modified tables, usually I have them in here. So all that would mean if it's like level 1M -1, you click on this table, and I've already preset this to where if you roll it, then it'll roll automatically for you. I already see that. I think I forgot the modified tables. I've since changed all the tables so that these are encounters instead of just, when I first did this was just the NPC. Then you could still drag them directly onto the combat tracker. But I tried to create encounters. I think I missed modified tables. That'll be in version 2. I'll update that. Templates, I mentioned that as I walked through. I tried to create some for you. And so you could continue to extend the game. Magic item charges, I showed you that too. And then when we create a character, I'll show you again. Items, other than the items you start with, I just figured you could do that as you went. And effects. We talked about how I've got some of the effects. So that's that. So let's get into, I'm trying to think if I missed anything. I think that's it. Let's walk through character creation. So let me see. We are at, I guess because I'll do chapters, it's not that bad, but we're at 25 minutes, not too bad. So this might be a little bit challenging to read. I recognize that, but got a character template here. I'm not sure. Wonder if that'll work. I might open up a, yeah, okay. So I already had created, if I go into my characters, it looks like I have the character template, so that should work. So this is how it will pop up. I'm gonna get this into a good form. And by the way, if you're hearing a little music in the background, I just thought it might be nice to have a little background music in addition to my voice. I'm using my player is Risonic Pro. I like that music player. And I'm using a Monument Studios. They just released their 4th Fantasy Complete version. So this is something from them, and all of them are royalty free. So it's great. I can use these on anything. All right. So character creation, we've got this. First thing you're going to do, you can click on classes here or on the right-hand side. And there's not really a class in 2D6 Dungeon. So all I'm going to do is basically, I created it as adventurer generically. And so you drag and drop that on the character sheet. And you can see in chat, it tells you you're now level 1. You need 100 experience points for the next level. So you could move that if you want, or actually, I guess you would leave that as your current. But you know that you need 100 experience points. Your health baseline is 10. So one of the things with the X-Core rule sets, it's automated, but you need to double click or click once on this icon to kind of refresh your character sheet. So you can see right now there's nothing in here. Should work if I double click. Okay. Now my health base is 10. Your shift total is 2. And your discipline total, as you can see down here, is 1. And your precision, you start at 0. So these might come up as I talk through some combat, but you can read the rules to understand those. And your title is raw. So it's up to you. You can go into your notes, and if you want to say title, you don't have to, but you certainly can. And then number of max level of maneuvers, number and max level. So your maneuvers aren't tied to your character level, but rather maneuver level. So you can have 2 level 1 maneuvers. And if you go into your inventory tab, you can see all of that was pasted in from the log. All right, so let's look at get cogs at the right, manually update to 10. Yep. So now you're going to select your starting weapon. I say not in the game, and all I mean by that is there's not like a weapons table for random, for something random in the game, but here is what it looks like. And you can roll, like that's what I intend to do this, or you can just select any of these. So let's just, for grins, let's roll. So, all right, I got a 1, so I got a great axe. So I can then go to my inventory tab and drag that link and drop it. Well, I should have been able to. That might be, why didn't that? That's interesting. I'm going to try to, well, let's go into items and drag the great axe. I feel like I'm missing something. Okay, let's step back. Why is that not working? I've gone too far in this video to totally change this. That's, shoot. Let me shut down this character sheet for a second. And I wonder, so that's my level 1. This is, I think something, yeah, I'll have to be careful with this character creation link. You might have to separately use, yeah, I might have to change that because it looks like you'll have to, it's not showing my character as you can see. So I think what you'll need to do, and I might need to make a note, but instead of clicking on this, if you click on a character here, let's see if this works. So let's go back through and class, drag adventure. Okay, that's there. Double click. Now it shows your inventory. Boy, let's hope that, can we drag the great axe on here? There we go. Yeah, I apologize. I'm gonna have to make a note. It looks like that just somehow this link I probably needed to update. So, all right. And you can see you do start with certain things from the core rulebook. So those are already preloaded. So you get flint and steel, lantern, all of these things are already loaded, and a potion of healing. And you can read the rule book to understand that a bit more. All right, so starting weapons. So now I selected a great axe, and you can see it populates here, and you've got your roll to attack. So if I go to my great axe weapon maneuver table here, you can roll on this, but my intention is just to show you everything. And you can also look at that, I think, in the rolls. But if you wanted to roll, you could. But to me, this is just an easy way to show you what dice do you need to get when you attack, what's the description, and what's the damage. So the rolls that are more kind of like in the middle, like a 3 and a 4, are going to be easier to get to because of the shift mechanic than something like a 1 or a 6. So something that has like a 6 is going to have a higher damage value. But, you know, in my mind, what I'm going to do is probably take something that's like a little bit easier, like a 3-2 for a hack. I'm going to drag that onto my maneuvers. And then maybe another one that's a little more damaging, but is a little bit harder to achieve. So how about the one I heft? Why not? I'm going to go to an incisive heft. It might be a little bit harder to get up. So those are my 2. And pick 2 starting maneuvers, done that. 1 piece of armor for the starting armor table. So I'm just going to grab a jerkin and I'll put that in my inventory. Put jerkin there. And so again, manually, it's gonna populate here, and you know that on a primary 4, you can deflect 1 damage. All right, starting scrolls. So these are your starting scrolls, and it shows you it shows you what type of modifiers you get. So I'll just do scroll balance. So let's just drag that onto inventory. Scroll balance, and that's there. All right. And you see it populates here. So it does tell you you can roll to cast, and then your fail modifier if you do fail. All right. Open up the flow chart. So that's it. My character's done. And obviously I can, do a portrait quickly. So there's an easy one. Let's just do a have in here, but let me just kind of drag. I'll just drag the dwarf on here. Why not? Just to have it in there. There are, you can drag in animated tokens, whatever you want to do. So let's drag him and drag him into the combat tracker. All right, so you see it populates him at a 10 for initiative. And so let's look quickly at the character sheet, and then I'm going to show you the PDF, and maybe we can just load that so you can see how that might be helpful. So current health, I missed that. I know I have a note that says put that to 10 because your health base and your current health actually can go above your base. So you do want to manually record that. Shift mechanic. So this is where it's not, it is automated as you level up. So as I drag more levels in, your shift will increase. So that's pretty cool. Same thing with discipline. So whenever you level up and drag it on, just always hit the cog to refresh, and these values should update. This fatigue mechanic I'll show you in a combat, and then you can roll on your damage for your maneuvers. And these checks I will show you, but there are various checks. The reason I put armor check optional is that's just an optional rule in the game, but I went ahead and put it in here in case you use it. You can just roll on to automate that. So all your attack rolls will be rolled straight down here. And inventory notes. Yeah, that's it. So let's grab, I'm going to show you, and give me a second. I'm going to show you the character sheet. And because of copyright, I didn't put all the text as drop downs, but let me turn on my PDF, see if I can do this right so that you can see this. So this is, again, right on Board Game Geek. You can download this. So what we could do, I'm going to call my character. I'm going to change it on the Fantasy Ground sheet. I'm just going to call it Gwydion because I always call my characters a different name and I forget and call him Gwydion. So what I'm going to do here is type in Gwydion. And then again, this is optional. You don't have to use the Form-Fillable character sheet, but you can drop down the levels as you level up. Your max hit points, I've already just had this set to starting at 10. You have your XP levels, so you can change that as you level up. Your shift starts at 2, just like our Fantasy Grounds character sheet. It goes up to, I think, a maximum of 4. So you can have that here, your discipline drop down, all of these. And then our weapon is a great axe. So let's just type in great axe. And I didn't put in a drop down again because of copyright. I just wanted to make sure Toby was comfortable with what I put in here. Applied runes come into play at lower, I guess, or higher dungeon levels. So the deeper you go in the dungeon. Let's type in my maneuver. So I've got a level one. And in this case, what I did is I have the dice set. So this is a 3-2. So I can put that there. And the modifier for the level 1 hack, let's open that, I think is a minus. Oh, it's just a 1d6. So it's just a d6 plus 0. And then the other one I did is level 1 incisive act. And then that's a 6 and a 4. That's going to be hard, but the damage is 1d6, d6 plus 3. And I'm using his nomenclature. He just did d6 instead of 1d6. So you can see that you can only ever have 3, but I have 2. The armor that we selected was a jerkin. So again, I type in jerkin there, and the dice set, these are all the available dice sets, but there's no like text in there that I was worried about copyright. So that's just a 4. And the modifier is -1. I think it goes to a -4. So I think you can have up to 3 pieces of armor. My scroll I picked was, I'll just say balance. And orbits, I'm trying to remember, I'm going to open this up. I think those come into play maybe in other supplements or maybe as you get deeper in the dungeon. I'm not quite sure. So that's faculty. And then dispel doubles is none. What that means is it's harder to cast, as I understand it, a scroll if certain doubles get dispelled, I think. It kind of takes those out of your success. And effect modifier is, I'll just type it in, +1 discipline for 1 dungeon level. So that's just text that'll fit into the box. Legend status, if you complete a dungeon level, then you can tick these off. So those are just all set up. And then I have the copyright at the bottom. And again, Toby was fine with me creating this and putting it on Board Game Geek. Potions, we do start with a potion of healing. So I'll say potion of healing. And the modifier is heal up to 10 hit points. Heal up to 10 health points. What's important there is if it just says, I think, add certain health or whatever, you can go above your baseline. So I think in this case, potion of healing cannot get you above your baseline. So bloodied and soaked. So I won't go through all those mechanics, but the point is, as you do contract the blighted condition, each room you get to, you have a -1 HP. So this is how you track those conditions. And then coins, you can type in your coinage, any treasure. Liberated prisoners is part of the game. You might run into prisoners and rescue them. So you can always track how many you've rescued. And then side quests, you can type them briefly in here. There are gods that by doing various things, sacrificing to them, getting various items that they enjoy, you can gain favor points. So down here, the more favor points you get, the easier your roll is. You get modifiers to your rolls. So you can tick those. And the narrative moments, just anything you want to track and say about something cool that happened in a room. You can track your items here. I didn't put the text in again here due to copyright, but it's easy enough to type in your items. Now, large items, you can only get 10. The game does talk about basic definition for them. So you can look that up. Most items are going to be small, but if you carry like 2 weapons for some reason, your second weapon, or maybe it's your second piece of armor, if you're not wearing it, actually counts as a heavy item. So you could type in here, like backpack does not count as a heavy item, but you could say I meant to type over here, large backpack, even though it's large, that does not count as a large item. Lantern, and you can say, let's see, wax ceiling kit. You get the idea. So all that you can track here. Any additional notes you want. Loot lockup, you can, like as you come back into town, you can basically stash whatever you want. So you can track that here. Rations. So you start the game with 3 rations, and you do have to consume a ration as you're going down levels. So you can like designate that by clicking on these, that you've used the rations, or if you get more rations, so it's just a little quick automation. That's it. So that's what I wanted to show you. So maybe before we dive into a quick round of combat, I'm going to jump over to the core rulebook. So this is the solo core rulebook. This is the free version. I think the only thing I noticed that it might not have that the paid version does is that flowchart. So I think in general, if you just want the PDF, Toby's been kind enough to release that for free. And you'll see, like, he's expected to expand this pretty significantly. What we're in is the human ancestry version of the dungeon, but he expects to have all types of different ancestries. And this dungeon alone has 10 levels. So all the tables are available for all 10 levels. What I've coded in Fantasy Grounds and what you'll be able to play is level 1, the entry. So as you scroll down through here, you can see a roll and write, print and play, a lot of credit information on DR Games. And I'm just going to jump down a bit. So you've got the intro. There's a lot of good text in here. I would say that it's not superfluous. Like it's pretty to the point. There's a lot of tables on like value and gems, and that's the stuff that I did not code in here. Talks about side quests, creating an adventure, so you can look at this to just verify everything that we went through as we did our character creation. And I have to remember to change that section in the character creation so people don't get stuck. And here are your starting scrolls. What you get, it talks about the armor, the type of armor you can get. So I included all of the armor that's available in the free codex, but for your starting armor, you have to pick one of these 4. And this also tells you what you start with, which is what we already recorded on the character template. This is the adventure level table. Again, I couldn't include this in the Fantasy Grounds module, but you can see kind of as you level up again here, the number and max level of maneuvers. So what they're trying to clarify here is if you get to level 4 as an adventurer, you get 2 level 2 maneuvers. So now in my case, again, I've only included in the Fantasy Ground module the level 1 maneuvers because I'm just trying to stay with what is part of the first level period. Capacity, again, it talks a little bit about what happens when you level up, and sorry, on the one hand, and then capacity on the weight or the heavy items. Health points and death, talks a bit about light, generating dungeon rooms. I am not going to go into this because I have a whole playthrough where I showed this, but you'll see how easy it is, I think, in Fantasy Grounds to use the map tools and create that. The only thing I'm going to go through, I might throw somebody on the map and show you how you could run a combat, but I'm not going to show a full room. And let's see, see if there's anything else. I'm going to turn this off for a second so you don't see me rapidly scrolling. See if there's anything else I want to show you. But I would encourage you to go through the rule book, but I think that's enough for now. I'm going to open the codex and show that briefly. All right, so here is the codex, and this is the free version as well. So these are all the tables you need. And again, you can see up here, the free version, you would have a lot more tables when you buy the official version. So there's different sections. You can see they're actually color coded. So when you have the physical book like I do, you can look at the color and easily know, oh, yellow is generic, and flip right to that section. So this tells you the types of tables that are available in that section. Now I'm going to rotate the view for you briefly. All right, so now let's go back and do this right. Do one more thing. Yep, let's go down one more. There we go. I think that's what I intended to do there. So you can see there's a lot of tables. Like, again, I have all the Armor 1 table in here. Standard Armor tables, all the text is here. So as I page down here, you can see here's the failed to cast. So if you're trying to cast a scroll and it fails, I have the table built into Fantasy Grounds, but this kind of gives you the description. All of these are in, and in fact, if I pull that up and show you, you can find that. This is, I think, a generic table, failed to cast. All right, so let's for a second pull this up. And if I turn that off for a second, you can see this is the table. So I do have all the text in here. I don't have the flavor text at the bottom, but it tells you hold out the scroll and try to cast, something happens, and roll on this, and the table will come up and it'll tell you here. The scroll transforms into sand, runs through your fingers, no spells cast. So you lose it, but no other impact or effect. So that's cool. Go back to this. So I just didn't include like the flavor text on the very bottom. There are other, let me get to, there's some magic items, really cool and diverse. I feel like for a solo game, a lot of people will try to compare this to D100 Dungeons, 4 Against Darkness. I think they're all a little bit different. And this one, I like D100 Dungeons a lot, but man, I feel myself getting into this one for whatever reason a bit more. And I do love, I have all the D100 Dungeon books, so I'm not disparaging them by any means. Magic Scroll, again, all of this, some great text in here. So you can see just how much he included in the game. Here are the weapon maneuvers. So what you will see is just the level 1 weapons that I have in here, but really easy. I actually have a whole other module where I've been including all the levels for my own personal use, but easy for you to do it as well if you wanted. Random list tables. Let me go back. The cool thing is I don't remember if this is, sorry for 1 second, hyperlinked. It might not be. No, it's not. All right. I'm going to shut this off. Yeah, I think that's enough. You get the idea. So let's go into the character. And actually, you know what? I'm not even going to show the map because you'll see in the other video that I'll link to how I ran combat. So for now, what I will show you, let me open a table, the rooms, and I might just roll level 1 table. So when you roll on a room table, so here's like the basic table you're going to be rolling on for your rooms. And again, I go through a whole combat or a whole turn order and such in my video that I will link to. And so you'll see as you roll on these, it gives you all the description, room types, number of exits, types of exits, not number, excuse me, types of exits. And then I do have the encounter. So if you roll here in chat, it'll populate and it'll give you that entry or for who you're going to fight. And some of these, like I have it in here, like you would roll a D6, but then if you do roll and the jailer's there, then you can just drop that link and hit the encounter and start it. I've automated all these rolls. So in most cases, when you roll, it's going to automatically roll in these tables. You shouldn't have to do virtually anything. So let's go. I'm going to open up a huge rat. So in this case, I'm just going to drag an infected rat to the combat tracker. So again, you can have it on the map. We can, if we want, we could, I suppose, grab the starting map. And like I said, I won't. It's really easy to create these rooms. So like if I did want to create a starting room, I go to my layer, my lines, and I'm just going to drag and just make a room. You'll see how to do this, and this would have exits. So this is not like exactly what you would do. Oh, let's do this. Oh, shoot. There's a certain size that you would have for the opening room. So this is just to get you an idea that it's really easy to create these. And so there I have a little room. So all I wanted to show you is now I could drag, Gwydion on there, and I could drag the huge infected rat on there and make sure they're both visible. There we go. All right. So you can see Gwydion already has his initiative order. You could double click here to roll initiative. And so, actually Gwydion doesn't. So I guess I have to just double click on that. And there you go. So then you can start the turn order. All right, so I'll show one round of combat. In the other one, I showed this pretty completely. So let's clear this off. But I just want to show how easy it is. So let's drag him over here. There. And so I can target the huge rat, obviously here, or I could do it up here in the combat tracker. You can see he's targeted. Probably do this so that I don't keep having to flip back and forth. So you will roll the great axe to attack. So in this case, it's a 1 and a 6. You can't mix those and match those. It's a 1 and a 6. And I'm trying to get to either a 3-2 or a 6-4. I have 2 shift points. So I can shift 1 die, 2 numbers, or I can shift 2 dice, 1 numbers. And you can't shift a 6 to a 1. You can go 6 to 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, but you can't just flip it over and, so to speak, and move it. So in this case, I would miss, right? Let's say that I did roll and I hit. Then I just have to, let's say I was able to get to my hack. So if I got to my hack, I could double click on the damage and you'll see it populate up here. Oh, why didn't it populate? Let's see. Target's huge. In fact, that's because I targeted from the rat. If I just knew how to use Fantasy Grounds, this would all be better. So, okay, let's get everything the right way. Okay, now Gwydion is targeting the infected rat. Let's double click on the hack, and it's done 4 damage. Now, obviously, if I roll it again and it does do 5 damage, you can see just like any other game, he's on there, and if I double click on this, it'll have the blood token, which is cool. But let me get a rat back on there. Show this again. And then let's move to the rat. Oh, I have to put him back on here. So now we're going to move back to the rat, and we'll have the rat attack Gwydion. So you're going to want to click on the sword so that you have your available combat actions. And you can see everything is right there, really cool. So I'm going to clear the tracker again, or the chat again. Let's do the attack. So in this case, it's a 5 and a 1, and he needs to get a 4 and a 3. He only has 1 shift point. So again, he only has 1 shift point. So, but that's combat. Now, the one thing I missed, and it didn't look at, like, I forgot that he's got to pounce on a secondary 1 and 6. So again, I was signifying that I hit with a 3-2. So in that case, since the secondary is a 1-6, his pounce interrupt would not come into play. So that's combat. And again, you can get, it doesn't get too much more complicated than that. What I would say though is, as you advance to the next round, I do have this fatigue tracker. And so as you look at Gwydion's character sheet, as you double click this and move it forward and around, you'd have to update this up here, but pay attention to my shift up here. And as I advance these rounds, so I'm in the 3rd round now, still a 2 shift, but as I move to round 4 and update, that shows me I have a 3 shift. So just a way for you to remember that as you get deeper into combat and you click that again, shift, click that again. Once you get to 6, you don't add to your shift once you get to your 6th round. So I can't double click and go any further, and then you can just reset this, right? As you go to another combat, I'm controlling and scrolling, left click controlling and scrolling on my mouse pad. And then you would, let's see. Oh, I probably should have put this back to 1. You always be in round 1. So yeah, now everything goes back. So that's an easy way to do that. All right. Opening a lock. Let's just go into, I'm going to clear everything out, but I wanted to show you a few of the checks. So we'll get these done. So there is opening a lock, and I'll open this up. A little hard for you to read, probably size-wise, but you roll 2d6 for the lock's quality. Write the number next to the door or box icon. Some locks have a modifier to apply to the quality roll. To pick, roll 2d6 plus precision, and you need to get above or equal to the number. You only get one roll per lock. So this isn't perfect, and I should have shown you, let me put these back. When you first get your character sheet, these will, I believe, all be 0. Now, if you click on open, this is automatically going to roll. I don't know how else to do this. So now what this is saying is it already rolled a 2d6 and the lock quality is 2. So what you would do is you would control left click and scroll this to 2. So now that's targeting, and you can close this. Now that your target check is a 2, so double click on that. And if you roll, it says, okay, I rolled a 5 and the check was against a 2, success. So not really automated, but semi-automated. And then every time you can reset these. And again, you just have to, you can't double click on that. But if you open it, it'll automatically put that to a 6. Move that to a 6 and say, okay, my target now is a 6. I've got to roll over, and I rolled a 5, so I failed. So that's that. Door check. This is just simple. You're rolling on the door table to see if a door is locked. So you'll get prompted for that in the game. But if you do, you just double click on that, and it tells you all types of doors are locked or unlocked, excuse me. So there might be certain types of doors are locked. Avoid the patrol. So in this case, there are certain times they'll ask you to roll to avoid a patrol. And what you're trying to do here is if you roll an 8 or higher, you've not been found. But if you roll under an 8, then you have to roll on the patrol table. So let's do avoid the patrol. I rolled a 6, so we failed. So then you'd be able to open this link and roll on the patrol table. And that got you a laborer. So you got your encounter, you drop it in the encounter, and you're good to go. So everything's all ready. So, and you can see again, the laborer has his token up there. So pretty nice. All right. Precision check. So the last one I'll go through here, I guess I didn't lock all the records. I might have to go back and do that as a follow-up. So each individual precision check has a number detailed in the text that you must roll over on a 2d6. And a number in brackets indicating how many rolls you have before the task is impossible. So you might get a precision, so PC 8 in parentheses 1. So that means you have to roll at least an 8 or above, and you only get one chance. So the way I did that here is you can scroll this and say, look, I get, let's just say it allowed you 3 checks. So I have 3 checks and the target was 8. So now I can say, okay, my first check, let's go. Double click. I got a 5, so I failed. Now I can double click on the number of checks. Say I have 2 left. Let's check again. Rolled a 9, I succeeded. So then you can kind of get rid of this tracker, reset it if you want, but at least it's a pretty easy way to automate. Again, as I mentioned before, but if you go up to your your effects, you can, if you have any of these, like if we activated our scroll balance and we're able to do that, you can left click and drag and drop. And at least it tells you, hey, I've got balance. I've got +1 discipline for this dungeon level. And then you can go into your discipline and you could toggle that up and just remember that you've done that. And you can toggle it. But just remember, if you do something like that manually, and then you click up here, reset it, it's going to reset all of your numbers. So just something to remember that you might have to remember, particularly if you're tracking fatigue and you're constantly refreshing. If you've manually adjusted these, you'll have to do that again. So I think that's it. I'm right at an hour, surprisingly enough. So I have a few things to do maybe before I go live on the Forge. I might update that character sheet so that people don't get stuck like I did when I was first starting to show you. So I hope you guys found that useful. I'm going to get this out hopefully today. So I'm excited to share it with you. And again, 2D6 Dungeon, Toby Lancaster, DR Games. I hope you download it. If you do, and you have any comments, drop me a note on the forum, drop me a note in Discord, on the Fantasy Grounds Discord, my own personal. wherever you can find me. I'm out there quite a bit. So thanks again for watching, and I hope you found this useful.